To keep it real, you guys, that performance was extremely mid. And in a sense, it felt like, for me, this performance was definitely coming because we haven't been creating as much. We're not getting the best opportunities in front of goal consistently. And it feels like this balancing job that a lot of managers constantly have to do, in a sense, is the main bottleneck behind why performances like this can arise in the first place. Now, what do I mean by this exactly? Well, it's been something I've been saying consistently for a very long time. We have a squad that has many different players suited to different styles of football. You look at your back three team, you look at your players like your Alonsos, your Rudigers, etc. You know, they suit that back three style of football, yet we then have players that are suited to a more back four style of football. But the issue then becomes, how do you find that balancing act between a group of players that don't necessarily complement each other to the fullest? I mean, that's the reality. For me, this is an opportunity to criticize Tuchel because he's not the first manager that has struggled to find that proper balance. And it really feels like if we had that midfield player, if we had signed a big midfield player, maybe a Declan Rice, a Partey, he would have been perfect for the system. It feels like, for sure, Tuchel will most definitely be using a back four system. But, this is where the issues arise, you guys. If you use a back four system, of course, it means that you create more on goal. You have more attacking players that you can utilize in the team. However, you can also accept that that comes with maybe the press not being super cohesive. That also comes with us, giving opportunities to the opposition team. And then you're fully relying upon killing the game off as quickly as possible before then maybe defending deeper and playing on the counter-attack. It's the Premier League. That doesn't happen all the time. But on the other hand, when you do use a back three system, of course, that comes along with the ability to play out from the back. The build-up phase becomes extremely easy. You're easily able to just cut through teams in their first press. However, the issue then becomes, okay, you're now limited offensively, and the attack can become extremely predictable. And I think today, the game versus Southampton, this was the prime example of our predictable attacks eventually coming through to cost us. And the reality is, if we didn't get that penalty, realistically, do we have much hope in this game to come through and even equalize, even win the game? I don't think so, you guys. And for sure, this is something Tuchel definitely knows. I mean, I released a video a few days back discussing Tuchel's plans for next season to convert us back into a back four team, 4-3-3. That is kind of his main style, but to consistently play that with the quality that you need, you have to turn towards the market to make one or two more signings to get that system absolutely perfect. But I don't know, at the same time, this game felt like it was an opportunity where, okay, we have close to a full strength team, and throughout this season, that has been a luxury. We have not had this much quality consistently available together. And as I was saying in the match preview, a 4-3-3 could have been that different tactic, that surprise tactic against Southampton, because for sure, I think one thing I'm starting to realize now is that maybe teams are a lot more comfortable with us keeping possession. I mean, again, this was another game where we have over 70% of the ball. However, when that translates to chances on goal, it's not really happening, you guys. It really isn't. And especially in that first half, Southampton looked so comfortable. They knew exactly what they had to do. And when you assess how we were looking to break them down, the predictability was for sure on show, you guys. I'm looking at that left-hand side in particular, and it does feel like with Tuchel, again, it's hard for me to just say Tuchel, because with managers in general, you can be put in situations where you're hoping to force things. I mean, we've seen this as Chelsea fans over the years with many managers. Tuchel's not unique to this. He's not the only one to suffer from this. However, I look at that left-hand side, I look at Marcus Alonso, I look at Timo Werner, and let's keep it real, you guys. Yes, we've been getting results in the past few games, but realistically, is this going to be that killer left-hand side that is going to guarantee us success come the end of the season? I don't think so. Again, this is one of those games in particular with Marcus Alonso where that lack of pace where you can stretch your position running behind. Constantly when he was the outlet that we needed, he was too slow. way too slow. And at the same time with Timo Werner, I mean, how often are we seeing him in positions out wide? The same positions out wide where there was a lot of criticism coming during the first half of the season. It's still the same thing now. How often are we seeing Werner? I feel like afraid to cut inside on his right foot to even take shots on goal. I guess the angles aren't really open up as much as they used to be earlier. However, you know, I guess when you play in this type of manner, a lot more individual quality has to come up, has to be on show. And with Timo Werner, I've always seen him as like the system type of striker. You know, he was essentially signed to be the icing on the cake, to be on the end of these attacking moves, to put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, that's how he's played at RB Leipzig. And when you look at the goals he scored at Leipzig, Werner was scoring the same 3-4 goals every single time. You know, when you're having him out wide by himself, as we're seeing, he is constantly looking to cut back to his left foot and put a cross in with his left foot. And that becomes very predictable to play against, because if you're an opposition defender, all you've got to do is close down that angle for him to cut inside, and you know that Werner isn't doing that much when it comes to playing with his left foot. And then when I was looking at the attacking plans today, what solutions did we really have? With Southampton, they had a game plan. They stopped us playing down that right-hand side. We weren't seeing Reece James putting in as many crosses as possible, meaning that we had to focus more down the left-hand side, which for me was most definitely the plan that Southampton had, because in terms of build-up, it's non-existent. Because essentially, with how our team works, with how the system works, it's about creating down the right-hand side, and the left-hand side is like the finishing side. That's why Alonso gets inside the box. That's why Werner is supposed to be getting inside the box as well. When we can't build up down the right-hand side, the left-hand side doesn't bring anything. And I guess for me, you know, this now brings us on to maybe certain decisions that could have helped us in the context of this game. I do want to stress that this is not a match review where I'm looking to, you know, stick hate on Tuchel, looking to critique him. Oh, Tuchel this, Tuchel that. No. I don't want any man getting that wrong at all. Reality is, you know, he hasn't got a preseason, which is the same thing I said for the last manager, which is still the same thing that applies to why our attacking cohesion is not on point. You know, you need, when you have so many new signings in the team and so many different formations that you're playing, it is hard to maintain that type of attacking cohesion, and, you know, to expect that to come deep into a very, like, congested schedule. For me, that's absolute fantasy, you guys. So, I don't know. That first half in particular, Southampton rightfully, in a sense, deserved to take the leads. You know, for me, poor mistakes from Cover, you know, who was positioned more down the left-hand side, allowing the pass Minamino to come in the first place. And of course, poor from Kurt Zouma, who was caught ball watching. I guess his mistake in that sense was reflective of maybe how unnecessary it was to use a back three against Southampton today. I mean, no surprise that the mistake came from Zouma, who wasn't really as involved in the game because, again, he had no one to mark, no one to attack, because Southampton themselves didn't do much other than prevent us from doing anything. So, I don't know, the second half came, you guys, and whenever anything good comes, it normally is Mason Mount. It's quite obvious that he's really stepped up to a different level right now. He's taking responsibility. He's like the main player that brings that creative threat into the team as well. And I think he plays really well as a false nine. I think he has the ability, the technique, and the work rate to fulfill that role. However, I just really felt like, even though we saw the positive sign of Hudson Odoi being brought on, which definitely brought some more flair down the right-hand side. For example, we saw Reece James able to actually get down to the byline due to having Hudson Odoi making runs in behind down the right-hand side. The penalty comes, of course, obviously Mount was definitely going to score that. He weren't going to miss it, you guys, because he's a serious player. And then after that, nothing kind of happens. And I think what gets quite surprising was maybe the substitution that Tuchel made. I'd love to know his post-match thoughts afterwards. You know, at the time of recording, you guys, there's no way for me to be able to, you know, discuss some of the reasons that Tuchel may have had in regards to that substitution. However, he brings on Hakim Ziyech, and for me, you know, you guys know that I'm a big fan of Ziyech. I've been a big admirer of his times back at Ajax. I mean, I've watched this guy play, and I really feel like we're not using him properly at all. You know, if you're going to play Ziyech, you don't want him making runs and behinds. You know, he has to be involved in the build-up. You know, you want him down the right-hand side where he's able to have the opposition guy coming towards him. You want players he can link up with between the lines as well, because he brings that creativity. He brings that threat. And of course, you know, I'd imagine that he'll get a ton of criticism for the perceived lack of like work rate and quality, and people may feel like they were duped. But, you know, you have to watch these guys to understand what makes them shine in the first place. And then, when you notice that, you have to look at the team and realize that, okay, are we bringing those same tactics, those same methods to allow ZIYECH to shine? I don't personally think we are. And for me, if you want to get the best out of him, he has to be playing in a team that uses a back four system. Of course, naturally, you know, you're taking Hudson Odoi off. Again, I don't know what the reason was, so it's hard for me to really be able to give a strong opinion on that. Was Hudson potentially carrying a small knock? Was this Tuchel thinking, you know what, I want to try this something completely new, and I'm going to just sacrifice Hudson because I feel like maybe Werner and Mount are more likely to score a goal in case an opportunity comes up compared to Callum. I mean, there's so many reasons, you guys, I'm sure we'll find out in the end, but I don't know. Considering the subs were made, still maintain that same back three system, nothing really happened from that. And if ZIYECH ain't the guy playing the long balls over the top, if he's a guy that has to be making the runs inside the books, then it feels like a very redundant way to use him. So for me, I think this is natural. You know, Tuchel, let's keep it absolutely real. He's come through during the midway points of a season. It's only natural that he'll make mistakes and he'll learn things about certain players and maybe certain plans and ideas that maybe he thinks in his head might work, in reality don't actually work. So again, this ain't a game to be angry at Tuchel about, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I do feel like it is time for him to, you know, learn from the mistakes that other managers have kind of been forced into making. For me personally, I don't think Werner has to start every single game. Considering the amount of balls he's got down the left-hand side, I was thinking, okay, if this is a Hudson Odoi who has the ability to get out his man, play between the lines, cut inside, you know, have that 1v1 threat, I feel like, okay, maybe the system, that back three system works a bit better. Don't force players for the sake of it. I really believe that, you guys. I'm really stressing that, and I don't know, I feel like over time, you know, Tuchel will, you know, he'll get things right for sure. But a big part of me has always assumed that, okay, by the time this season ends, the goal is going to be to at least get top four in the safest way possible. And then next season, with the pre-season and with money to spend, we'll really see what Tuchel's about. But yeah, you guys, on that note, that was my match review for today. Yeah, very, very interesting game. Be curious to know what this means for our upcoming game against Atletico Madrid. But yeah, you guys, I really thought getting the trim for the game today was going to be some potential good luck. Boy, was I wrong, and I think it's time for me to bounce, so I'll catch you guys later.